Hey everybody, Stuart Macadam here, and super excited today to have Corey Hinde on the channel. Corey Hinde is the founder of The Good Oil Marketing, which is a digital marketing agency based in the sunny Bay of Plenty, New Zealand. They provide services for SEO and Google My Business with an interest in helping you get more organic traffic to your website. Hello, Corey.
Hey, Stuart. Happy New Year's.
Happy New
Thanks
Year
for
to
having
you
me on.
too. How's everything going?
Really good. Yeah, enjoying summer. It's a great time of year to be around here. It's been really hot, so in the water a fair bit, but already looking back at work for this year and starting to get busy. It's exciting because I feel like people are starting to be optimistic again and come out of their slumber and look forward to a year of growth. And it's exciting.
Awesome. It's quite interesting. Your digital marketing for rookies page, your Facebook group. How long ago did you start that?
Good question. I think we started that either 2.5 or 3.5 years ago. So the story behind that was, at the time, I was mostly doing social media marketing for people. My background way before I got into agency stuff was I'd always marketed my own businesses, and I like storytelling and helping people get their brand out there and clarify what they're doing. And social media was the main thing I was doing back then. And I was doing a workshop for the local chamber of commerce, and we decided with the participants there, rather than just do a presentation, we would build a Facebook group live and get them all to join, so I could teach them how to join groups, teach them how to post, etc. And we just started it right there and then, and just grew from there. And it's been pretty cool. It's been a good journey. Great way to meet some people. Business outcomes. Sometimes I get some good growth in my courses, etc. I do get clients from there as well. But overall, it's been really good fun just to help people to grow and learn, as Facebook groups have become the predominant thing. So it's been pretty good fun.
Why do you think that Facebook groups have taken priority over pages now?
Yeah, not entirely sure. I guess over the time that Facebook's been running, which is quite a long time now, they're always looking at ways to keep us on there longer. Really, that's what they sell is time on the platform. So they're always looking at the measures that they've got to see how they can increase people's usage time, and really, that's their main thing. So they probably found that over time it morphed from, hey, I'm on Facebook, here's some photos of my holiday, to it started to look like a sales pitch type of notice board at the supermarket. So I think people started using groups more and more to hang out with like-minded people. So Facebook just recognized that and started to go their way. And that's my take on it anyway. Yeah.
It's quite interesting because obviously with the content that you're putting out now versus what you would have put out when you started has obviously changed as well, because obviously you've got a vested interest too, keeping people coming back to the group on quite a regular basis. Is there
Yep.
any way that you can sort of identify like what sort of changed over that time?
Yeah, I look at the data quite a lot. I mean, let's be really honest about why any business owner has a Facebook presence. It's for one reason and one reason only, and that's their own business outcomes. So I'm very, very honest about that. I want those people to engage in my content. I want them to sign up to my email list, and then I want them to buy my courses. I mean, that's really the reason. We all say, oh, we're doing it to give back, blah, blah, blah. But quite frankly, that's a little bit of BS. We do it for our own reasons. Over the last few years, at the beginning, I would post stuff. Hey, do this, do that. Now, I guess it's more about sparking conversations and getting people to comment at all costs. And I think that commenting is the main metric I'll watch. The group now must have 1,300 odd, maybe 1,400 people. I don't actually know. I posted something yesterday, which is a really cool post about goal setting that might have had a reach of 400. That's quite high for that group now. If I just post a YouTube clip, which Facebook does not want me to do, it might get 100 reach. So that's clear. And if you watch your reach and watch your comments, that's probably the main thing. You just have to be aware of that, as we are with any platform. Anything that we do, we watch the reactions of people, and we try to match up what they want, what they engage with, and what we provide. And really, that's the game, is just constantly, as you would know as a skilled marketer yourself, the whole game is build a theory, pop it out there, and then see what happens. And that see what happens stage That's always the interesting part. And then we just assess that result and go, okay, now what do we do? Do we double down on that? Do we delete that? Do we do more of that? And then just build a consistent habit around those actions that we take. But it's constantly testing. And Facebook's good for that because you've got really good insights. And that applies to other platforms as well. It's sort of the game is test, measure, test, measure.
Yeah. And the great thing about like Facebook groups too is that buyer persona that you've created on paper, and you go out and test it and you get the honest feedback from people who actually are a real reflection of, you know, the types of customers that you're looking for is really helpful in really, I guess, nailing down what their problem points are, and also, you know, sort of getting their thoughts on particular services. Because was SEO and Google My Business, like that's something which has obviously also evolved over time. Is it something that you always saw yourself getting into, or did it sort of happen through a series of other things?
No, not really. Good question. I think with myself, it's more about um, basic marketing 101. You know, where are the people that I want to target and what do they do? And in New Zealand, we're quite different to other countries. You know, I'm quite active on Twitter myself and LinkedIn, but New Zealanders and Aussies, who I market mostly to, still use Facebook a lot. So it's more about just being there and then trying to find the subsets of people that are right for my business. Which is great because back in the old days you couldn't do that. You know, you chucked an ad on the radio or TV and just hoped. Now we can go, okay, these are the people I want. And I think that in New Zealand, I'm quite bullish for 2022 that, you know, email is something to be very aware of. So is SEO. But in terms of social platforms, I still think Facebook is very important because everybody's there in some way, whether it's Facebook Messenger or Facebook groups, or whether they're there to look at family photos, they're there somehow at a higher percentage than other countries. So I think that if you ignored Facebook entirely as a business owner in New Zealand, that would be a mistake. That's my take on it anyway.
It's quite interesting with Facebook groups and like YouTube and all these other platforms. It's what you've called it rented space effectively before versus like an email list where you've actually got control. And that's something that's kind of changed my mind over the last couple of months about how to build a valuable business up. And having that email list is such an important part of it because, you know, you can still hold on to that email list and say MailChimp closes you down, you can go to ActiveCampaign or Klaviyo or any of these other platforms. Or, you know, you can either just send it out one by one if you really knew how engaged someone was. Versus like a Facebook group, which, you know, you put one controversial post up and then boom, you know, Facebook could just say, nah, not suitable, we're shutting you down, groups close, and then you lose everything.
You're exactly right. I really believe that if you build your business on rented land, that is a major mistake because it happens often. People aren't aware of how often that issues happen with social media. I mean, I've been banned myself as an advertiser way back, and it's really hard to get that fixed. So I really believe that everybody should think about SEO. They should always think about email, and they're two very important pillars. And then you might have one or two key social platforms, but just be very aware they could disappear. Like you said, that's entirely correct. Email is still underplayed in New Zealand. Like I was email marketing for my very first business in a fitness business back in Sydney in 2001, so 20 years ago, before MailChimp even existed, before any email platforms existed. We used a Hotmail, our business Hotmail email address, and we could only send out 50 emails at a time because that's all you could do. So you'd copy all the email addresses, dump it in, send out another batch. And even back then, we get replies from other countries because we just sent out a newsletter each week about fitness. And we get replies from other countries. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So Kiwis, for some reason, are a bit afraid of email, but man, it's a deadly weapon if it's used properly. Everyone should think about it at least.
Yeah. And I think even with like text as well, like SMS messages too, that's something which in the New Zealand market is still mainly just used by, you know, doctors and dentists and stuff to confirm your appointments and stuff, but it can be quite useful as well, particularly as people are spending more time on their phone, to get them into, I guess, what your goal is, which we'll talk a bit more about later on, which is courses and like webinars and trainings and that sort of stuff. So I think it's definitely underutilized. One of the things that I'm quite intrigued to know is, with promoting your business, your main services now focus on SEO and Google My Business. You've used Facebook, you've used YouTube as well. And you use email. Which of those do you find helps you the most, and which one have you found has been the biggest challenge?
Yeah, good question. So in the beginning, Facebook was definitely where I started the whole business. I had a low-priced offering, and Facebook's not bad for those low-priced offerings and getting your name out there. But Facebook's morphed into a bit of a place where people look for free advice, free help, discounted services, and it's gotten a bit ugly, I think. For me, probably email now is my main thing. My email list has been steadily growing. They're good people. I watch who joins. I clean it up often. I make sure that my list is as good as it can be. So I get people mostly who become clients for my SEO or Google My Business services via email. LinkedIn is engaging. People talk, but at the end of the day, my funnel, and I don't really like that phrase funnel so much, but really what I do is I test various social media places to get people onto my email list, because I know that once they're on that email list, they're much more likely to reply to one-on-one newsletters, ask a question, or just say, hey, I've been following your stuff, let's go. So I had a client sign up last year, good package, high-priced SEO package, and he just said, hey, I've been following you for a year and a half, let's go. I was like, wow, that's email for you. That's how powerful it can be. So because my underlying belief is that people like to solve problems themselves. They like to go to Google and figure things out. They like to talk to friends as well. And they like to ask, hey, Bob, what do you recommend for this? So if you can enhance that in some way, that's a good thing. Push marketing versus pull marketing is an interesting concept. And when people just come your way because they've followed your stuff, or they've been on your list, or a friend recommended them, that's quite powerful compared to a cold kind of ad, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, these cold ads are quite a challenging one, and that's like with Facebook, getting people to sort of engage with the ad on the platform is so much different from like advertising on YouTube or advertising on Google, where people have much more intent on a how-to or plumber near me. But it would be the same thing as well for SEO. Your main focus is getting people to rank for those keywords and search phrases. Like, what are the main tactics that are relevant in 2022 to start ranking for particular keywords and search phrases for, let's say, a plumber?
Hasn't really changed a lot. So the thing about Google, and I like this about Google, is that they evolve all the time. So their goal is to give people the best possible result. Okay, so if you're looking for a plumber near me, they've never changed their goal, which is to give people the best possible result. So if you're a local business, I always advise that you should start with Google My Business, because Google My Business is highly localized, and it's kind of like SEO. It's like a subset of SEO, and people, they will simply grab their phone and they'll search for plumber near me, and then they'll see the Google My Business results, and they'll make a couple of phone calls without even visiting a website. So that's quite a game changer. And I've tested this live. I've had workshops where I've tested it and one time I asked 30 people to find, and it was a plumber. I said to the group of 30, find me a plumber. And every single person but one looked at the Google Business profile result and said, this is who I found. The 30th person's brother-in-law was a plumber. So that was I know a plumber directly. I've got his phone number right here. So starting out with Google My Business is always a great way to start. And then with your website, it's not, once you've done the technical stuff, once your website's built and it's on a good platform and it's new, it's up to date, it's really not that hard. You've just got to know what phrase you want to rank for, and then make sure that you've got all your meta titles optimized, your page URLs are optimized, make sure your content is optimized. Get some posts which are really well written that Google recognizes. And once you've built some great posts that Google recognizes, you will move up, and just keep paying attention to it, because my secret weapon with my Google My Business service is consistency. I log into my clients' accounts every second or third day, and I make updates and I update posts. It's the same with SEO. Spend consistent time on your website every single month. Update, improve your old posts, look at the data, delete the stuff that's not working, upgrade, and just keep going every month. And over time, you will wear it down and you'll win. It's not a sexy opinion, because people are always looking for our YouTube content, our Facebook content, blog posts, etc., to shortcut the system, look for the hacks and tactics. But in the long run, the best stuff wins, and that's it. That's the whole game. Just create good stuff and be consistent, and eventually you'll win.
It's the equivalent of what you have with running. Like, SEO is very much like your marathon, ultra marathon, whereas in paid advertising is more of a sort of sprint to middle distance type of one, where you can start to see what's working and what's not reasonably quickly. Whereas with SEO, it's far more of a long-term game. And I mean, I have a client that I've done a little bit of SEO for, and just something as simple as putting their information into business directories locally has made such a big difference and helped them rank for very brand specific keywords and keywords related to their service offering.
And it's easy. It's easy to do, right? Like
absolutely.
I've got a list on my blog now with all of the up to date, the best New Zealand directories to list on, and you click on each link, it takes you straight to the page to register your details. And that's part of my SEO Unlocked course, the course I wrote last year, which is just about, they say there's 200 ranking factors that Google looks at. Well, realistically, there's about 10 that really count. So that's what I focused on. And one guy locally, he worked through the whole course. He took himself from page 8 to page 2 within about 2 weeks. It's just the basic stuff. But those directories, it's not necessarily the traffic on the directory that counts either. It's the fact that Google is crawling around going, there's another signal over there, and that Stuart Macadam appears over there, and Stuart Macadam's over here, and they collate it, and that's what Google does. So we're just feeding that engine exactly what they want. The crawl bot, that's what it does. So we just feed that. It's not. Sometimes it's not rocket science, unless you're a really high ticket business and you've got lots of competition, and let's say you're an insurance broker, Auckland, that would be a difficult game to win, and that could take years, but still worthwhile, because in the long run, people still use Google.
And people still use Google and will still, some people have ad blockers on. So having that Google My Business and, number 1, 2, 3 in the search engine results still has a part to play, and still plays a very important role in a holistic
I posted about that this
marketing
morning.
strategy.
Sorry, I posted about that this morning on LinkedIn or something. I said, look, people are trying to avoid ads. People don't like ads. They have their place, but a lot of people just want to figure things out for themselves. So, you've got to be, and I don't necessarily love this phrase either, but you've got to be a little bit omnipresent. You've got to be looking at ads. You've got to be looking at email. You've got to be looking at social. You've got to be looking at SEO. All these things count. And that's why really big businesses have huge marketing departments undertaking all this stuff, because in the long run, it works. It might take a bit of time, but it's worth it in the long run. The people who drop off, maybe they're not meant to win. Maybe they're not good enough to stick it out and see it through for a few years to get those big numbers coming their way.
Yeah. Have you ever clicked on any of these ads by different marketers and been hit by omnipresent retargeting?
Totally, yeah. I do it just to see what happens. I'm always exploring to figure out what their play is. Trying to look at their funnels and see, how they put it together. Probably my biggest disappointment in the marketing journey in the last 5 years has been that some of those guys are really, really good at marketing their own stuff, but their own stuff's not that good. Whereas sometimes you find people, Aussies, Kiwis, etc., who have really good content, but don't necessarily go over the top aggressive with the marketing of their own thing. So it's really interesting. I've bought some good stuff before where it was worth it. It was worth the purchase price to see the funnel and how they sold it and set it up. but the content itself was pretty weak. But I'm always interested. I'm always trying to learn, and as you are, we're trying to, because at the end of the day, I think that the meta skill, probably the most important skill we can have as a marketer, is actually copywriting. So we need to read what people are writing. We need to follow their stuff. We need to look at their ads. We need to understand how they're connecting with their audience, because once you can get copywriting nailed, which is a weird statement because I don't think you can ever get it nailed. It's a everlasting journey. Once you combine that with good product or good service, you can do anything. So I'm a big fan of clicking on those ads. It's always a bit of fun too.
Yeah, I know that our friend Stuart Gould is not a fan of a lot of these guys and clicking on their ads and stuff. But I think we've got a bit of a different approach here, because I've clicked on like Alaric Heck, Riley Stuart, Kadir and Ahmad, I think his name is. So two of them do YouTube courses. Riley Stuart does like how to get more gym clients, fitness clients, and that sort of stuff. And Alaric and Riley in particular, their level of omnipresent retargeting is at a level I've never experienced with anyone else. And I always make a bit of a habit nowadays, because they're still going after me about 50, 60 times after I've clicked on their ads and not bought anything. They're still coming back at me. So I have to give them a little bit of credit for, keeping up the chase there.
Yep, full credit to them. I think the most aggressive I've ever seen is Sabri Subi over in Aussie.
Yeah.
And that guy's next level. He'll hit your phone. I'm looking for a drone over the top of my house from that guy. Like, he doesn't stop. But that's the game. We're trying to meet. We're trying to help people, and those guys are trying to help people, and they have a 100% belief that they have a great product or service that you need. That's their core belief, so they won't stop.
Yeah.
And that's how we should look at our own services and the services of our partners and our customers. Is people need them, and our job is to make that journey as seamless and short as possible, and as enriching as possible. So it's always fun to learn from those guys. Some of those guys test a lot of stuff, and hey, there's lessons in there.
What's been your some of your most engaging content that's gone out in your Facebook group that people have really responded well to?
Probably Facebook. Facebook is people are very, as we all are, people are into their own outcomes, right? So they're in it for them. So unfortunately, probably the biggest engagement I've had recently is things like, pop your website here, and I'll give you a few tips on how to improve your conversion rate. Pop your website here, and I'll chuck it through one of my tools and give you some tips around improving your SEO. Those go berserk, because it's all about what's in it for me. But that's probably how it should be with Facebook. Facebook it's kind of the gap that it fills. So those posts always go well. With YouTube and email, when I have a really clear, tight checklist or lesson or thing, they always go pretty well. I've got a couple of YouTube videos that have gone really well, and they're just surprisingly short processes that people are just looking for. It's really weird, but people like to. They're searching with intent to solve a problem. So if we can solve that for them, then that'll go well. But yeah, back to Facebook, my highest engaging things have always been, hey, chuck your stuff in here. Let's have a look. Let's help each other out. Let's all comment together and build a bit of a story. And they tend to go quite well.
I want to talk about a couple of guys that you are. You're very familiar with these two guys, Roland Frazier, John Casto. Why are you so familiar with them? And what have these guys done to help the industry that we're in, which is digital and online marketing?
So Roland, and who was the second one? John Crestani?
Yeah.
So, look, I've been studying guys. I first fell in love with marketing 20 years ago when I built my first business.
What was your first business?
It was a fitness and nutrition business. So I'm a qualified dietitian, weirdly. And when we finished up our dietetics training back at the University of Sydney, we realised there wasn't much around for jobs. So we started our own corporate health business. We're doing nutrition consulting, health testing. We managed a few gyms, that type of stuff. I went to a Brad Sugar's workshop live back in Sydney in 2001 from memory. And I just fell in love with their process of marketing, business growth. I still read and consume a lot of stuff, and I just love it. And I've probably listened to more podcasts than anybody I know by a factor of 2. Like, I used to drive a lot. I'd always listen to podcasts when I mow the lawn, ride my bike downstairs on the Zwift. I'm always listening to podcasts because there's so much there to learn. So I follow lots of guys, and I want to learn from them, see what they know. And Roland Frazier, for example, John Crestani, for me, it's more about unpacking the offering value that he's got. So he's a guy that partners up with people. People probably should partner up with him because he's got really good tight processes, and he wants to take a good chunk of their money, because at the end of the day, a lot of people out there with motivation and that they want to win in business and in marketing, but they don't have processes and systems and products and services they can sell. So why not partner up with a guy like that? He's got a very unusual approach, but I think that's important these days because we have to stand out. It's such a busy marketplace. If you don't stand out, you're screwed. Roland Frazier has been in the marketing and business growth space for a very long time, and I've enjoyed his content for years. I really like his latest iteration, which is essentially he wants to bring his vast expertise and team and only partner with businesses for some equity and then send them to the moon. It's a very smart play because he's essentially buying stakes in businesses for free rather than the classic mistake people make, which is selling their time. So it's been interesting watching his stuff. I mean, Roland's been a copywriter, business growth guy probably for 30 years plus, which in this game is a hell of a long time. So they're just some guys worth following. If you go to my Twitter handle, Twitter's going berserk lately with the amount of information and great follows. It's a really interesting place. People share their information a lot. You've got to be careful. You don't want to overcommit your time of learning compared to doing. So that's always interesting. But I just find there's a lot of people out there who share information very, very readily. And why wouldn't you consume it? There's a lot out there, and it's good fun.
Is there anyone that you think's quite overrated?
Not really. I think there are probably people who get that label, like Neil Patel. They'll get labeled overrated because at the end of the day, they're really just a media channel, and they're trying to remove themselves from the business and the expertise to get traffic to sell other things. So I don't think anyone's really overrated. If you're seeing them or hearing from them, then they're doing a good job, right? My Twitter feed is where I get a lot of my learning now, and I'm always curating that. So I'm always following new people and deleting other people to focus more on Google, SEO, copywriting, the big things that move the needle for me. Because I think as we go in 2022 for marketing agencies and marketing professionals and freelancers such as ourselves, it's about niching down and really becoming expert at a thing. But I believe that copywriting underpins most of that. So it's a good thing to follow, good thing to learn.
If you're doing SEO work, just talking about sort of niching down and SEO taking time, how long would you normally tell someone that you would need for them to start seeing particular results on Google My Business and just with like organic keywords?
Yep. So it's a really good question. And I basically make no promises because part of the game is this is what we're doing and this is what the other people are doing. So regardless of what we do, a large part of our results are based on our competition as well, because Google is just a great big scoreboard, right? So Google My Business, I tell people, look, it does take time. I don't even do contracts for people. I just say, give me at least 3 months, because I know that for every single client ever, within 3 months, we've started to move the needle and become a positive return on investment campaign. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. I don't say that to many people because I can only say that if I know their competition is weak and it's a niche which we can dominate. So yeah, it's really hard. If anyone makes that promise, I would say run from that person, because it's an impossible promise to make. You just can't guarantee anything. And if Google was that easy to predict, then that would totally break down what Google is, because if it was that gameable, then we would all game it and it wouldn't give people what they want. Google wants to give the best possible results. So they always changing, and our job is to do that reading, do that research, and keep testing, keep doing the work to elevate. And that's what we do. So, but for me, it's like, hey guys, give me 3 months at least, because I'm 100% strike rate given that 3 month time frame. And if somebody's on the phone after 2 weeks, I'm like, oh, I don't think I vetted this one well enough, because I shouldn't have this phone call. I should be into my work and my processes, and I shouldn't be on the phone with this person asking where are my results after 2 weeks. So that's about lead generation and making sure you onboard and get the right clients, really.
One of your goals this year is to sell more courses and online courses. I'll start with asking what actually goes into a good online course. What makes a course stand out from all the other courses out there to something which is like excellent?
I think there's a few things. So thing number one is it's got to have a clear outcome and a clear promise. So I will take you from this present state to this future state. So that's got to be nice and clear. You're buying it for this reason. It's like fitness. You want to get from here to here. And then it really comes down to a good few modules or lessons, and making sure really the key is making sure that people get it and know what to do. So it's essentially teaching and understanding that people are coming from a level back here, and they're going to press the wrong thing, they're going to hit the wrong thing, they're going to go to the wrong place, etc. So we have to be really careful to step people through. I really like simple. I like clear step-by-step checklists. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and then make sure that those lead to the outcome people want. That could be written, that could be video. I normally do some video content supported by some written stuff as well, because I find that works for most people. They like to watch, do, pause, do the thing. My courses have all been, I haven't sold, anywhere near as many as I'd like to. My courses are really good and easy to follow. So I think my course business will grow substantially in the next year, because what I get, my superpower from being a dietitian is that I can explain complicated things reasonably clearly and easily. That's what a dietitian does. They break down complicated stuff, they make it easy. So I do that really well. I break things down, I walk them through a process, and I ensure that they get it. And I'll test it with people live and watch their eyes and watch how they react and look for those little signs of confusion and make sure we get that out of the way so they can get the outcome they want. Because what I don't want to get involved in is the course game where people just buy courses and don't finish them. I don't like that at all. I want people to go, wow, that was a hell of an investment. Like that was an incredibly simple, easy to follow course with a great outcome. And I can't believe it only cost this much. That's the game I want to be involved in. Some of the courses out there are the opposite of that. They're really expensive, they're hard to follow, and they're upsells for other things. And that's what I don't want a part of that at all. It's good fun though. Like, I recommend anybody who does marketing should do courses in some way at some time, because it adds another arm to your business, and it ensures that if you've really mastered something, you can break it down and teach it to people. And that to me is the crux of courses. And I really enjoy putting them together. And I love it when I get feedback from people saying, wow, that was really cool. I enjoyed it and I got the outcome I wanted. That's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, and I think it gives you a digital asset as well, and it also expands your knowledge and helps you address the knowledge gaps that you may have that might not have been immediately obvious, particularly working with people and business owners and senior managers who may not be asking like those pressing questions that you need to be asking yourself when you're putting a course together. Because that obviously is quite a process. You can't just turn the camera on and start talking into it and have all the slides ready and stuff. Like, there is that preparation process that you've got to go through to have that completed course, isn't there?
There is, yeah. And that's, I normally map out a checklist, and I just do dot points and talk to the dot points and have screen grabs to show people the steps. Now, sometimes my Google My Business course, Google Business Profile course, for example, that has 3 videos and there's about 10 modules. I think you can work through the whole thing in about 2 to 3 hours, right? However, that 2 to 3 hours is a culmination of probably 3 years of work. So knowing testing, reading, doing, figuring that stuff out the hard way and going, okay, there's all this stuff out there, but you only need to know this and do this. Ignore that, just do this, just do this. Much like fitness, running, whatever it might be. Don't worry about that, just do this. And that's the beauty of courses. People can send themselves around the twist trying to find stuff, do stuff, figure it out for themselves, or they can spend a small amount of money and have a nice straight line process to follow and an almost guaranteed outcome at the finish. And that's what a course should be all about.
What are the current courses that you have right now?
So my two main ones are the SEO Unlocked course, which is more about general organic SEO. So that came out last year. And that is, I think it's 8 modules, and it's designed that any tech rookie can work through that and get their website ranking higher. So it talks about the basics like what words are you trying to rank for, what are your meta titles for your pages, your directories, all the basics that move the needle. So that course is really good because people can work through it in about 3 or 4 days, and within sometimes even 2 weeks, maybe more, depends on the business and the competition, they'll be ranking their website higher. My favorite course is my new version of the Google My Business, Google Business Profile how-to for this year, because I do a lot of that. I do a lot of Google My Business, Google Business Profile optimizations and reviews, and I manage, I think it's 12 to 15 accounts at the moment. So I know the stuff that's needed. And that course, literally you can work through that in a couple of hours and do the work on your own listing, and it will rank higher. Every single time people buy that course, it ranks higher. And for the money, it's great. I mean, I charge a fair fee to do that for people on a month-by-month basis, and it gives them a business outcome every time.
Mm-hmm.
For people who don't want to spend that money and use me or people like me, this course is really, really good. And for the money, it's a no-brainer. So, I'm a fan, but I'm biased. It's my own work. So,
And we'll include a link to the 2 courses in the description box below for anybody who's listening and is interested in learning more about these particular areas of digital marketing. What are the upcoming courses that you've got planned?
I'm thinking of doing some really short micro courses. So for example, the Google My Business one, that's a fairly big thing. But I'm thinking of short, tiny $5 courses to test out some different things people need doing this year.
Would you be promoting those?
I will be eventually via my email list and my Facebook group. But at the moment, I'm still trying to find out from my groups and places what people need to learn this year. That's why I do a lot of question asking in my group, for example, is trying to find out where the gaps are that people are struggling with. I really like for this year, for a lot of small businesses, I think they should be focusing on Google My Business, SEO, and email, because in New Zealand, those things there's a lot of scope to improve those things for most businesses. So I'm thinking of something in the email space as well, because I've been email marketing literally for 20 years. And in that time, I've done a lot of learning around, subject lines, copywriting, offers, how to get people to click on things. So that might be a place I go. But at this stage, my Google My Business course, the most recent one, getting that into more people's hands is a key prerogative, because I see people wasting lots of money on marketing activities that don't yield results for them. And I'd really love people just to do this thing, get it done, ensure that you're not missing the obvious local leads, and then build their business from there by going down the paid channels and the other routes that are available to them.
Fantastic. Are there any courses that you'd highly recommend people have a look at?
Oh man, loads. Like, I'm on Twitter a lot at the moment, and some of the guys I'm following over there, there's some really good email courses. There's some really good copywriting courses. And I think that if people can get better at copywriting, they'll always improve their business. They'll sell better. They'll be clearer. They'll always get better results from their email. But there's no one particular course I'd recommend that's mind-blowing right now. I'm looking at an email course, though, that I'm going to purchase probably today from a guy on Twitter. I think it's Email Wizard or something. It looks really good. There's a lot of templates, because I just believe that you can never learn enough about copywriting and email.
Mm.
That helps out paid traffic, that helps out social media, that helps out so many parts of your business. Guys like us should be consuming that. But if a small business owner is doing their own marketing, then they should be. I think they should learn their stuff constantly, because it doesn't take too many tweaks sometimes to turn something from not profitable to wildly profitable, and that's the sort of thing we're always looking for. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think the great thing that you brought up earlier on is like asking those questions in the Facebook group, because that's obviously something a lot of people may not be as familiar with. Because if they're asking like, what's a key benefit of having a Facebook group, it's really that market research that you can derive to create stronger, more engaging, more valuable content
yeah,
that's going
totally.
to take you to the next level. And I think so many people don't actually know how easy it would be to make a little bit more money with having a Facebook group. Like, like I've got a client in Australia that teaches people how to become firefighters. And the thing that he's been running recently has been just released a, Fire Rescue Victoria mini course. Who wants it? And
Right.
the first time he did that, 400 people responded, and this was in a group of about 4,000. So 10%
Wow.
response rate.
That's good.
Then he
Yeah.
did it a couple of weeks later, QFES mini training. Who wants it? 56 people responded.
Yeah.
And the sales that he's had, and the ability to turn that group into a more profitable arm of his business has been monumental. And he picked that up from looking at these different Facebook groups, which have got 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 members. And
Yeah.
it's just small things like that. I think being humble enough to admit that you don't know everything and you
Yeah.
cannot possibly know everything, and leaning on that knowledge of those who have accumulated a wealth of consumer behavior information and are able to really engage people in such a strong way that can really sort of push them through that sales funnel a lot faster than you could just trying to figure it out on your own. Because if really, if you are trying to figure it out on your own, it's a tall order, because you'll be
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
competing against people that are walking the same journey, and you'll kind of you can either stumble along side by side
Yeah.
with them and try to sort of go, you get in front, they get in front, and so on,
Yeah.
or you can just steal that information or borrow that information
Yeah.
from those that
Yeah.
have done really well and push ahead, which is what I think you do particularly well with the content that you put out. Because I mean, I don't know how you do it, putting out that level of content. Like, I mean, you do email, you do the Facebook group, you've got
Yeah.
so many different things. You've got YouTube as well. How do you
Yeah.
find time to balance all of that, and how do you determine what content is a priority over,
Yeah.
say, other content which may also be, sort of up near the top of the list?
Not to mention a busy family life too. I mean, I've got 4 kids and a wife, mate. So it's busy. I guess. Thanks for the nice words. I guess for me, it's. I've always been a very motivated person, and that goes for my fitness, my work, and it comes down to planning, thinking, always thinking, why am I doing this? What, and then what's the outcome of this? And just being really regimented with your planning. And to be honest, I want to improve that this year. I want to get better at that this year, because that's the game of business. It's continual optimization in every way, sticking to the most important things and making sure they're done, and then experimenting and learning. And you just got to keep pushing. I consume lots of stuff, so coming up with content's not that hard. There's always stuff around that you can put a twist on or an angle on, and talking to clients, getting feedback from clients about the problems they've got, and then how that might adapt over to another industry, for example. That's we are, you and I both do that. We consume lots, so it's easy to share it as well.
I think a big problem that a lot of people are facing at the moment is the accuracy of information. Because with Facebook ads right now, obviously there's the Apple iOS 14 changes, but even before that came in, a lot of the information that you were seeing wasn't entirely accurate. And having that ability to use something like Zapier and Facebook API to integrate information, is that seems to be something which people are often wanting to hire you for, is to sort of get that more accurate, reliable, information, and sort of bypass a lot of that. Do do courses still
Yeah.
have standalone courses like the ones that you're talking about? Do you think that there's a market for the more advanced courses, or do you think a lot of people are looking for just that kind of entry level course that they can
I
then
think
sort of
both.
lean on?
Yeah, I think both. I mean, the reality is that since the world's changed so much, the online education space is still growing massively, and lots of people are looking at changing jobs right now, careers. I think that online education is going to continue to explode the next couple of years. So there will be short form courses, long form courses, and I think they're all going to grow. Back to your earlier point about assessing what knowledge is good, etc. Look, I'm a trained scientist, so part of the game is understanding who wrote this and why. That's a big part of the game. Who wrote this? Where did it come from? And what's their motivation and/or incentive for this information? You need to run that filter yourself at all times because there is lots out there and some of it's rubbish. So we need to be aware of that. And that's yeah. But to answer the question, I think all course growth is going to continue on for 2022 and beyond because people are working from home, they need to upskill, they're changing careers, they're asking what's it all about, so they're consuming. I mean, one of the SEO courses I bought into a couple of years ago was 1,500. The new version of that's going to be 2,500, and it's worth every penny. The guy who runs it is an absolute legend. His name's John Romaine. He's probably the premier SEO trainer, in my opinion, on the planet, right? So he's very, very good. He's not mucking around with $10 courses. He's selling $2,500 courses. But the skill set you get from that is probably the same as a 1-year diploma at TAFE, at WinTech, or a place like that. So I think there's a lot of scope for growth in that area right now.
Yeah, I just need to plug the charger in, so just 2 secs.
All good, mate.
Yeah, there's one of the things that I find quite interesting at the moment with digital marketing is there's some pretty, quick and rapid changes that is happening in the industry right now. The Facebook updates, Google's always updating, YouTube's emerged as quite a prominent platform to advertise on, both organically and in a paid way. I mean, personally, I've found just with this YouTube journey, like some of the most successful videos that we've had ever have been course reviews. Because I think so many people, alluding to that point you made earlier on, have been burned by getting really bad courses. And one guy that I found to be quite a mixed bag with on courses was a guy called Rudy Mawa. Have you heard of him?
Only via you. Yeah.
Yeah, because his course was better ads in 7 days or your money back. So quite an interesting offer. It's $27 US to buy the course. It takes you through the pillars of good Facebook advertising. It gives you examples from different industries of ads that have worked incredibly well. He talks a lot about copywriting and buyer intent, consumer behavior. But the thing that I found so disappointing about his course was that it was really just a mesh together of private training sessions that he's done. One of them is him presenting in front of a whiteboard. Another time, it's a video where for the first 5 minutes, he's literally looking at a screen, waiting for people to come into the room. Obviously, the live training. So it's very poorly edited. The audio was dreadful a lot of the times. It varied a lot, so you had to sort of turn the volume up and down. And it was just something that you thought, well, I would have been happy to pay an extra $20 if that meant you could get a proper edited video. And then you've got the other side of the spectrum, which is like Alaric Heck's type of introduction, where he's talking about how great he is and all the wonderful things that he's achieved, which is all fine and good if you don't know who he is.
Mm.
But if you've made it that far to buying the course, you
You know
already
who he
know who
is.
he is. You just want him
Yeah.
to get on with it and start teaching you about YouTube ads
Ah,
and what they involve and
yeah.
so on. So when you're doing like your sort of like course structure, like, I mean, and you wanting to sort of promote your course thing, like, how would you sort of establish that trust with people enough for them to follow through and buy the
Yeah,
course?
I'm never going to jump on the start of a video where I'm training people and talk about myself. I find some of those guys, to be honest, comical. I just can't fathom why they would do that. But for me, hopefully, by the time they spent the money, they've built trust with me. It's know, like, and trust. Period. So they've seen me on LinkedIn. They've been reading my emails. They've consumed my content. Hopefully, they go, I think this guy's trustworthy. He seems to know what he's talking about. Click buy, do the stuff. I have faith that by the time they spend the money, that the trust is there. That's what content marketing is all about. Content marketing is the ultimate know, like, and trust, and that's why we people do it. Is to shorten that sales cycle and make sure people have faith to click buy now.
Awesome. Where can people find out more about you?
Probably my main thing I'm trying to build this year for following is my email list. So we'll pop a link below for the email list. My blog is goodoil.marketing. So that's my blog. And then, the sendfox.com / Corey Hind is the email list. And then on Facebook, the group we've talked about is digital marketing for rookies. So people can find that as well. But certainly my main objective right now is to grow that email list. So if people would join that newsletter / email list, I put out really useful content. I go over the top with that because I want it to grow. So I put out lots of lessons in there that people can apply themselves and do. So that's me.
Awesome. We'll include a link to all of those. Also, link your courses and your YouTube channel as well, which hopefully
Great,
can
cool.
grow a little
Yeah.
bit from this.
Yeah, the old YouTube, it's a bit of a graft, but I just build videos when I see a thing I need doing. Sometimes they get some views and sometimes they don't, but I think that's the game with YouTube. It's consistent action, it's learn, it's improve, it's find the spots of learning people need and keep going with it. We're both doing that, so that's good fun.
Thanks very much, Corey. We'll definitely have to
Oh,
catch up
thanks.
sometime.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Stuart. I could talk all day, literally, about this. So thanks for sharing a screen with me. That's great.
Pleasure.